What up, though? My name is KG The Kidd, and you have officially tuned in to Crowned, Confessions and Conversations, where you can expect authentic discussion about life, relationships, current events, and everything in between, all from a faith perspective. Let's get it. Alright, what's up, y'all? My name is KG The Kidd, and I'm so excited. This is officially the first episode for Crowned, Confessions and Conversations. This has been a long coming project. I'm excited. I just don't even know what's about to happen, so we'll see what happens. So part of the whole premise of the show is the conversation piece, because clearly I can't converse with myself. The conversation piece is utilizing the people in my life, my village, as I like to call them. I'm really big on community, if you know anything about me. But just kind of talking and kicking it with the people who mean the most to me, because I have a lot of good conversations with a lot of dope people, because I know a lot of dope people. So today I have somebody that is like a sister to me. I'm not going to say is like, she is my sister, because I don't want to get in trouble with your mama. I don't want Big Lo calling me later. Like, what? Like a sister? What happened?
Okay.
So yeah, so Alesa is here. What's up, sis?
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I feel so honored.
Listen. Alesa loves me, y'all. She loves me for real, because she literally just got off the road. Like, Lisa lives out of state, and she literally got off the road. I called her, and I was like, we should do this. I want you to do this with me, my first episode. But she was like, I'll be home, right? And I was like, what? I even moved the premiere date just to have Lisa on here. But this was a conversation I really wanted to have with her. Lisa, you want to tell the people a little bit about who you are and what you do?
You know what? I'm just a young servant,
Come on, young servant.
I'm just a young servant, just trying to do what the Lord wants me to do.
Yes.
Okay? I'm trying to be holy and acceptable before His sight.
Glory.
Hey!
Come on. We churchy. We not that churchy in real life.
Not real life. Okay. No. So, born and raised, in Pontiac. Yaktown. Okay, as they would say, Yaktown, don't back down. Okay. Shout out to Sean.
Shout out to Sean Preston.
Okay, we got the shirt. If you don't have it, go buy it. Period. That's my brother, so you gotta represent.
Period.
So I'm just a young little thing. I don't know. I'm a young little thing,
Tell the people a little bit more about your brand.
Okay,
what you do.
Y'all. So I currently have my brand called Honest Era. I'm so excited about this. It's basically just I have 3 statements to go with it: being whole, truthful, and living freedom.
Yeah.
So it's basically about being able to be yourself, being transparent with God, but also allow Him to be transparent with you, and take the words that He has in His Word and place them in your heart to continue to transform you and make you better and make you whole. Yeah. So you can walk out living good and being an actual vessel and actually have the fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah, that's good.
Because some Christians don't.
Listen, that's a whole different episode for
a
different day.
I know, but I just have to throw that in.
We here to uplift.
Not choose violence, but uplift.
Not choose. Listen.
Wrong day.
Okay. The wrong day. Listen. Catch us on the wrong day. Okay. Catch us on the right day. Depends on what you get.
We're choosing peace. I got it.
We choosing peace because that's a fruit of the Spirit. Look at that. Look at that. Because we live this thing. Okay. So Lisa is my first guest for this show. The topic of this show, title, I decided to call it Doing It Afraid, Overcoming the Fear Factor. And I decided to call it that because part of this official reveal, or whatever you want to call it, had a lot to do with overcoming fear. My brand has been growing and whatever else, but it originally started off as a hashtag on social media. And for years, I had people tell me, like, yo, you should get out here. You should do more with Confessions from a Tilted Crown. Like, that's hot, whatever. And a lot of it was, I was afraid. So for a long, long time, it just literally stayed as a hashtag. And I really had to think about, like, man, God, you given me so many different things and so many different skill sets, so many things that I can use. What am I doing with them? And, like, what's stopping me? And a lot of it had a lot to do with fear. And I think when we talk about fear very often, sometimes we don't really think about it in the many different dimensions that it operates in. And because of that, I was like, yo, this has to be a conversation, because it has to be something. I know it's not something I'm just experiencing by myself. You know, fear in the sense of, you know, unbelief, fear in the sense of doubt, fear in the sense of what's going on in our world today. There are so many different forms of life and so many different places and spaces that we operate in fear. So I really just wanted to have a real conversation about it and really think about, what are you doing with the fear that you might be experiencing in your life, and really challenge myself on asking myself, what am I doing about fear? So we're going to get right into it. My first question to really think about was, what has been your biggest faith battle this year? What have you been overcoming when it comes to fear?
My biggest one this year alone is honestly like starting my business.
Yeah.
Because it's actually been, it's something it's a journal-based business right now. Mm-hmm. So I believe that God gave me the idea, because the way that I want to set up the journals is something I was personally doing.
Right. And
then God gave me, spoke to me, and he was like, do this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. And I said, who? Okay, cool. So, and that was towards November, December 2019.
Okay.
So here we are.
Yeah.
Fast forward to, what is this? October 2021.
Yeah.
And I'm still in this process, like, God, what the heck I'm supposed to be doing?
Right.
Like, I know you told me to do this, but I'm still afraid. And there's days and moments when I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, let me go back doing my regular schmegler old self, punching that clock and trying to climb that ladder, rather than doing the business that you told me to do.
Right.
So far, the biggest thing this year is actually starting my business.
Yeah. No, that's real. I mean, even like I said, like, doing this, there was some fear associated with it. I think for me, one of the biggest fears that I've had to overcome this year is, I know you know, Lisa, but in April of this year, I had COVID. So I fought COVID and I won. And I'm grateful to be able to say that I overcame COVID. You know, not a lot of people knew. My family, like the people that are really, really close to me, they knew, but not a whole lot of people know. But like, I was scared. Like, I'm not even gonna hold you up. I remember finding out that I had COVID. It wasn't just me, it was me and my best friend, who's my roommate. We both fought together. And I think what was so scary about it was the fact that I've seen people who have passed away due to COVID.
Yeah.
So to go through that and to hear some of the horror stories about, you know, different things that happen to different people after they have COVID and whatever else. So there was, even in getting like the positive test result, it was the thought process of, okay, God, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm battling with. Am I going to see the other side of this situation?
Yeah.
Constantly reminding myself to confess, to operate in faith, you know, being reminded by other people of faith, like, you know, my pastor and my friends and, you know, even me and my best friend just reminding each other. But it was scary, and I'm not going to hold you up. COVID is real ghetto. I don't recommend it. Wear your mask. Put your mask up, Michigan. Mask up, Georgia, Florida, California, wherever you are. Please, Texas. Please put your mask on in Texas. Let me tell you. But no, it was something that, I don't know. Like, it was just something I had never gone through in my entire life. Like, the idea of fighting that form of affliction when you've heard so many horror stories about how many people didn't make it.
Right.
Definitely, you know, put me in this position where I was like, man, God, I just need your help. Like, I don't know what else to do. Only you can help me with this one. And even after having COVID, fighting off the anxiety of not wanting to catch COVID again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
because that's real.
It is. Like, you know, after, I know people who have had COVID multiple times or whatever else. And there is, like, the one thing I did realize is that people don't talk about the mental state that comes along with fighting off COVID. It is such a mental game that people don't recognize. And I was just like, this is demonic. This is just real demonic. Because even having it, but having it afterwards, like, already, like, overcoming it or whatever, and then, like, life afterwards, being reminded like, oh God, please don't let this happen again. Yeah. Like having those moments where you cough and then you be looking like, ooh,
or Lord. People looking at you like,
listen. Let
me spray you with some Lysol real quick.
And they don't even know my story, dude. They don't even know where I've been through. So I know that that's something that I combated, and I'm even continuing to combat in my everyday life on a consistent basis. Like, I still have those moments sometimes. Like, there are still certain things that trigger those memories of what it was like to some of those. Because some of them days was hard. Like, some days I would be, like, in here in my apartment, me and my good sis, and there would be moments where it's like, okay, who got the most energy to get us some water? Because we need to have some water. Okay, you got the most energy right now. Okay, maybe hopefully after this nap, I'm like, because all you can do is sleep. Like, literally, it drains you. So I'm like, okay, after I take this nap, I got the water. And then there were moments where we both had to look at each other and be like, it's a DoorDash day. Like, Lord, where's one of our mamas? Please call somebody, mama, and tell mama to drop something off.
Because I showed him, like, mama, you better come in with a super suit on, mask up, come take care of me.
Listen, shout out to the mamas, shout out to Mama Gina, shout out to my mama, shout out to my dukes, like, shout out to my sister Kenya, my auntie. My whole family, like, literally came in so clutch during that experience. And so did my best friend's family, who is my family. So, shout out to them, because we wouldn't have been able to make it. My pastor, like, everybody just made sure we were straight and just dropped stuff off, which we were so grateful for. But it was definitely an experience where I was like, man, God, I look back on that time and I'm really just grateful, because it was an experience. And I think sometimes people don't understand how going through that reminded me of just how much fear has a tendency to grip us in our everyday lives. And we don't even stop to really think about it until we're having the moment or we've overcome the moment. But I'm grateful that I had people in my life, and even I remember you texting me and like yelling at me because you're like, why you ain't say nothing? Like, what's going on? So just thinking about things like that. So, okay, cool. Well, my other thing is like, looking back, you talked about a little bit about the fear that you've experienced and that you're overcoming currently in order to move forward in your brand. How has fear played a part in you producing in the past?
Honestly, I still don't understand how I accomplished something. I really do tell people, like, I just thinking, because, I'm always in school. Yeah. So I'm a forever student. Yeah.
So Lisa she forgot to mention this part. Lisa is currently in seminary school.
I am. And even if you want to go back further, I started college in high school. Yeah. 10th grade. Yeah. So I've been in school ever since. So even that, just the fear of, like, dang, am I doing this correct? Mm-hmm. Like, am I doing this all right? Like, am I being the best student I can be? But then you have that fear, so now it's making you feel like you're crap, and now you don't want to do nothing. Yeah. And I tell people all the time, I don't understand how I graduated with an associate's degree while in high school, and let alone how did I graduate with my bachelor's degree? Because I was off by myself. And I was scared. Yeah. Like, you away from home from the first time, trying to meet new people, but also being on top of your schoolwork. I always was gripped by this fear. Yeah. And it's genuinely by the grace of God that I've made it this far. And it's really no joke. Like, it's really by Him that I made it this far, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm scared to do. And it really... That's why it took me so long to really start my business. Yeah. No, that's real. That's real. Like, I should have did it when He first told me to do it. But no, I was like, I don't know. Like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Like, but you have to figure it out as you continue to go along. Yeah. And fear is something that is always going to be there. Yeah. That's it's true. Not going to go away. Yeah. It's just, how do you move with that fear? Yeah. Will you allow it to stop you, withhold you from? Yeah. Continue to get your blessing, or are you just going to be like stiff arm and be like, get out of my way? You here, I see you, but I'm still going to do what I have to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a really good point. And just when God gives us the vision for something, when he tells us to do something, like, fear is going to come, but how do we combat that fear? And a lot, like you just said, like, a lot of it is we combat that fear with, like, okay, God, if you set me up for this, then I can trust you more than I can trust my situation. I can trust you more than I can trust fear. So because of that, I just need to really, like, see you in a different way.
Yeah.
And really experience, like, what you have for me. Because, okay, if you've given me and said, Lisa, do this, start this business, then there was never a time in the Bible where God was like, hey, do this, and he didn't provide.
Right.
Ever. And I think sometimes we get caught up in our own experience of, okay, God, well, how am I going to do it? And God is like, you're not doing it, though. You're just a vessel.
Right.
You're just a place and a person in the space by which I've decided I'm going to operate in order to get this thing done here on earth.
Right.
And I know for me, like, that's played a very large role in how I've maneuvered a lot of things, because I didn't really realize you combat fear with faith.
Yeah.
So if you don't combat fear with faith, then no matter what you do, it's not hard work. It's not, you could work until your hands are bloody, until the soles of your feet are gone. But if you aren't actually, like, operating in the fullness of faith when it comes to fear, it doesn't matter what you do. Like you said, it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
It's always going to sit there. It's always going to loom. But you have to make a choice. You have to make a decision. And I thought about this particular area, this question in a sense, because I remember taking a job a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And I hated this job. Oh my God, it was such a horrible role for me. And it wasn't even that it was a bad job. It just wasn't for me. You know what I'm saying? And very often we do things, instead of just listening to God, instead of just asking God. Here's the thing. I took the job because I got offered the job. So I'm thinking, like, clearly this must be from God.
Okay, because he ain't going to put no blessing in front of you.
Listen. But no, it wasn't. I was moving out of my own situation because I had been put in a spot where, some things had happened or whatever else. And I was like, Lord, I got to get this money.
Okay.
Like, I got to get this cash, I gotta get this cheese, this dinero, this bread.
Listen.
And I took it upon myself to take something that was put in front of me and said, well, this must be God.
Yeah.
And it literally caused me so much pain and heartache. Like, physically, to the point where when I would try to go physically, my body would be like, nah, sis, we not working today. Like, what you doing? Like, sit here. And I would be so uncomfortable. But looking back on that situation, it was something that I did out of fear. Mm-hmm. And now I look back and I'll be like, dang, I didn't even have to go through that. And it's even like, with your business, like, there are so many people who are going to be blessed, who are already blessed by, like, what you share and the wisdom that you have. Let me tell y'all, Lisa is a youngin' out here in these streets, but the truth is, Lisa spiritually is so mature. Like, I know women who are well over her age, double my age, who could pray down heaven for the maturity that you have. And I see it. I watch your post and I see the things and I see how people are inspired by what you have to say and what God gives you. And it just constantly reminds me, like, that's why when we talk about this, I'm like, girl, what are you afraid of? Just do it. Like,
because you're like, oh, God, what if you all, it's those what ifs that's in the back of your head and it just paralyze you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a lot of things that people don't talk about with fear. It paralyzes you sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's like, okay, in your mind, you need to say, like, that's enough.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with me this year. At the beginning of the year, I was like, I'm overcoming fear.
Yeah.
That was in January.
Yeah.
And here I am now doing steps to continue to overcome fear. Mm-hmm. But also realize that my process of overcoming fear is acknowledging that I'm weak and then acknowledging that I need God's strength.
That's good.
So for me, that's how I'm becoming better.
Yeah.
Granted, there's still some days I'm like, ooh, God. Mm-hmm. But I take my moment, I cry it out, I go sit at the feet of God, listen to my worship music, or just pray, or just take a moment, and then that following day, I be feeling real, like, energized.
Yeah.
So it's genuinely, for me, my overcoming fear in this season is acknowledging that I'm weak, and that's something that most people don't want to acknowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to look strong. You know, black women, we strong out here.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Word to Big Bird.
But no, acknowledge that I'm weak. I need you more than anything else, because if I don't get you, I'm still gonna be stuck.
Yeah. In
this place that I don't want to be.
Yeah.
So if you say that you're the strong tower and we can run to you, why would I not run? Yeah.
Come on, wisdom! It's in the room! Come on! I better stop all this yelling. I'm sorry, y'all. Turn your headphones down. Turn your headphones down.
Like, why would I not run to a strong tower? Like, why would I not run to a strong fortress?
Yeah.
If you already said that in your word.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's real good. And you just said something that, like, just literally led into, like, the next question I was going to ask. You talked about how fear paralyzes us.
Yeah.
I read this online, and I'm going to give them a citation. Shout out to Moody Publishing, because I'm an educator, so you got to be your citations. My next question is, how does unbelief and a fear of the future relate to one another?
How to feel unbelief.
And I thought about this in the sense of Jairus' daughter. Granted, she wasn't paralyzed, like she was dead, but it was still some type of a sickness that she was experiencing. Anyway, he went to Jesus and was like, Lord, I need you, like, here right now, like in this moment. And even in that, this man literally had to check himself. Yeah. Because it was like, okay, Jesus, you're here. Are you willing to do this for me? So it wasn't that he didn't believe, and he had to say it. He was like, and Jesus kind of checked him, like, dude, what do you mean? Like, he's Jesus, like, right. Son of God, like, the Word made flesh, literally. And Jairus had to check himself, because he had to really just take a moment and was like, yo, I believe, but help my unbelief.
Right.
And
that's a weak acknowledging the strength.
Listen. I realized my pastor actually she did a series, and she talked about faith. She talked about the significance of faith, and she broke it down in that way. And I never ever thought about just how important and how significant that moment was, because in that moment it's like how many more moments or how many less moments do we have in our lives where we believe, but do we really believe?
Yeah.
Like, we say we're believers because that's what we know. That's we're people of faith. That's how we live our lives. We're followers of Christ. But do we actually in the moment believe God? Because like you said, if I know that God is a strong tower, why am I so caught up in what I see right here, right now in this moment? I know how to go and get refuge. I already know where my source is.
Right.
Why am I so caught up in, is it unbelief? Like, what keeps us from moving into the things? Like, what has kept you from moving on what God gave you to share with the world in that moment?
So for me, which I'm a person, I need to go to the root.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm not going to say that, but I can't just be like, oh, I see a symptom. Well, let me just take care of that symptom rather than going to the root of the issue. So for me, I had to figure out, okay, Lisa, why do you feel this way? Because I feel like how did I write it in my book? Because I want to say it correctly. I'm not, because I can't remember. But
okay,
I got my journal, but I don't have it with me. No, but I know that there was a source that I felt like I didn't have enough. It was insufficient.
Okay,
I'm insufficient.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, like, I really sit here and think that the things that he gives me is not enough for me to accomplish. Granted, it's not, because I need him as well.
Yeah.
But there's still good things inside of me that he's placed. I'm creating his image and likeness.
Right. Period.
So why do I continually see only the negative things about me rather than the good things that he's given me? And you just go back. I love the Old Testament. I'm an Old Testament connoisseur.
Okay, Old Testament.
There's glory in the Old Testament, and I feel like a lot of people don't do justice, but that's just me.
Okay, this is seminary. This was seminary school.
No.
Okay, shout out to seminary.
But no, we look at Moses.
Yeah.
You see all the good things that he has done, but you also see where his unbelief came in and his fear.
Yeah.
When God told him to speak to Pharaoh.
Yeah.
He couldn't do that. He asked for Aaron.
Yeah.
Like, God told you to go up there boldly in front of Pharaoh, but you said, no, I can't. I need Aaron. Choose Aaron for me to speak.
Why he didn't tell Aaron? He told Moses.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, in that, and you see still the good things that God produced out of him, but it was that, and you also see in the Bible that God kind of got angry. Because it's like, I'm calling you.
Yeah.
Like, you are enough for me to produce. You are enough of a vessel for me to move on this earth. Mm-hmm. Why not see that much in yourself?
Yeah.
There's a low self-esteem issue that we have.
Yeah.
More out of, granted, it's fear also, but we also have a low self-esteem that we need to check as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, granted, Moses did great things, but there was still a moment that we see of him being fearful.
Yeah.
Him having low self-esteem because he had a stuttering problem.
Yeah.
But God called you even though you had a lack, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Still move. Because he said you were worthy enough to do it.
Yeah. That's good. That's real good. Dude, look at you up here. You teaching, okay?
No, I'm not.
No, for real though. That's really what it is. And I mean, that's part of this project for me is even in you like sharing that, you've made the Bible come alive.
Yeah.
You've given me something to think about in the sense of like I can literally go back and now I can go and actually like look at Moses and his life. And you're right, because Moses experienced God in a whole different way that not many people would.
Okay, he was coming down from the mountain just glowing. You ain't seen nobody out here glowing like that. Like, sir.
He was.
They had to put a veil over you.
Yeah. Come on, Old Testament scholar.
Like,
give me the details.
Like, it's beautiful that you was able to really sit in God's presence for that long a period of time. Yeah. One, not to get killed.
Yeah.
Okay, because
listen,
God didn't play about this is holy ground.
They used to put ropes on the priest's ankles just in case they got taken out while they were in the glory.
Okay.
Because they wanted to be able to pull them out without actually going in there. It's like, oh, I gotta pull this priest out, but I don't want to get smited myself. So, yeah, no, that's real.
Listen, so for him, like you was there.
Yeah.
God saw so much in you because of your self-esteem issue.
Yeah.
You wasn't able to see it yourself as well.
Yeah.
But God is still faithful as he always is. He allowed Aaron to come in to help.
Yeah.
But still, what was the original plan?
It was for Moses.
For Moses.
Right.
To speak. And no telling what God would have done.
Yeah.
He could have allowed his words to come out smooth.
Yeah.
Okay, clean.
Right.
I'm like, who was this man?
And I think even in that moment, like, he would have allowed his words to come out smooth and clean because it would have been a reminder to Moses and everybody else. Everybody knew Moses had a speech impediment.
Right.
So all the more reason to use somebody like Moses to show this is not about this man. He is just the vessel. This is about God. And this is about him just picking and choosing who by which he wants to operate in.
Yeah.
And that's very often, like, I think we get to a point, and that's kind of where fear, like, starts with us. Like, we feel like we're not equipped. We're leaning to our own understanding. You know what I'm saying? We're so caught up in, okay, God, you could have gave this to somebody else. You could have gave it to this person, and this person lives like this, and this person has this. Why did you pick me? And it's like, why would he not pick you?
Yeah.
God, throughout the Bible, God always picked the person who was, like, the least expected to be utilized. And that's the full, like, that's my testimony as a whole. Like,
this is my testimony. I'm sorry, I always have a song.
And that's why you're my sister, because so do I. But real talk, like, I've looked at my life several times and wondered, God, why did you choose me? Out of all the people you could have picked, you just picked, I'm just a kid from the east side of the city. Literally.
Rep your city.
What's up?
If ain't no nobody gonna rep Detroit. Kendrick gonna rep Detroit.
Okay, y'all lucky I'm not sitting here doing this right now with my buffs on. But no, like, I tell people all the time, like, I'm just a kid from the east side of the city. Like, I never in a million years thought that God would use my life in the way that he has. But it's because I've learned that he knew. Yeah. He knew that I was never going to be wild enough to stop and think that it was something that I was doing or that I was so great or amazing. And even if I am, because I am all those things, but I'm all those things because of who lives big on the inside of me.
Yeah.
And the Holy Spirit dwells on the inside of me. And because of that, it, you know, my life points back to God. And that is part of why sometimes you have to do things afraid.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not about people seeing what I'm capable of doing. It's about them seeing God.
And you got to go right into my next point, because we can look at Joshua.
Come on, Joshua.
Joshua, he was Moses' servant.
Yeah.
And we see, pull out your Bibles with me, and we're going to go to Joshua. Chapter 1. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to go to verse 1 through 9.
Uh-huh.
We're not going to read it.
Okay.
But
you're just giving the people reference.
I'm giving you reference, and I'm going to pull out some points.
Okay, do it.
We see in the first verse, we see that there's a description of Joshua, that he was Moses' servant.
Yeah.
So which means he already seen the manifestation of God before, up close and personal with Moses before anything else.
Yeah. Before
he was called to be the next leader
of
Israel. Okay? As you go further, God gives he tells them again what their blessing will be. Mm-hmm. But then he also as you continue to go down, what did he tell Joshua? He told him to be strong and confident and courageous. For you will give this people as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers.
Yeah.
And again he said, only be strong and very courageous. Mm-hmm. Be careful to do everything in accordance with the entire law which Moses, my servant, commanded you.
Yeah.
Do not turn from it right or to the left, so that you may prosper and be very successful wherever you go. And then he gave him another instruction of reading the book of the law. Mm-hmm. And at the end, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous? Mm-hmm. Like 3 times.
Yeah.
He told this man to be strong and courageous. Mm-hmm. And as you read through Joshua, there's other times where God continued to encourage him to be strong and courageous, and he moved out of faith.
Yeah.
And do the things that God told him to do, so he can conquer his enemies. Mm-hmm. And he can get the things that God say, like, y'all can have that.
Yeah.
So for me, it still shows that even though Joshua was able to see everything that Moses went through, mm-hmm. see how Moses was with God, he was able to have that relationship with God, but it seems like he also had a fear.
Yeah. Yeah. He did.
But he still was faithful and moved in the correct way of which God told him to do. And as you continue to read the book, you see there's other times that God told him to be strong and courageous.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just once that God told him to be strong and courageous. It was multiple times. Mm-hmm. Which means for us, we're still going to be able to move in our purpose and fear. Mm-hmm. But we need to go back to God and have him remind us that we're to be strong and courageous.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Okay, y'all don't let see it. She got notes over here and everything, okay? And not only do you have notes, but you're actually in my notes, because one of the things when I sat down to reflect on having this discussion, one of the things that God, like, kicked it with me about was, like, it's time to go from fear to faith, from faith to faithfulness.
Yes.
And I don't know, man. You got to move beyond whatever that looks like. And it's so crazy because we always are so, like, sometimes we get stuck. And the thing about it is, like you said, if we remember, God has been so faithful throughout time. God has been consistent throughout the parallels of time. Literally, like, for you to even go from Moses to Joshua, we could look back at Abraham. Like, you know, God has literally been faithful. That's who he is.
He was faithful to Noah.
He was.
Noah could have died right in that water with everybody else.
He could have.
But God shut the door.
He did. He took care of him. He did exactly what he said he was going to do.
Absolutely.
And I think that's even more like, I know I talk to people very often and they talk about how difficult it is to read through the word. And it is like, until you get to a point where you can actually like have a relationship and a connection to what's going on in the Bible. And I think for me, I've realized even more, the Bible became real for me the more I realized that what these people were going through are the exact same things that we are going through. Yeah. But I said all that to say, like, if God would do it for them, He for sure has to do it for me. Absolutely. Like, it's just who He is. That's His nature. Because that's His nature. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just who He is. That's what He's going to do. He's going to show up because He's faithful. And if nothing more and nothing less, that reminds me that I have a call to faithfulness as well. No matter what's going on, no matter what the situation looks like. So yeah, you just jumped into my notes, which, you do that. That's cool. I ain't tripping. We kind of talked a little bit about this, but, you might have another situation. We'll see what happens. But talk about a time when you responded to a situation out of fear. How did that play out for you?
I'm like, which time? Which one? Which one do you want to go back to? Right. The only thing that it comes to mind as of right now, because we're talking about God's faithfulness, is when I moved out of state. Yeah. It was not on my own accord. I did not want to move. Let me be very transparent. Yeah. Did not want to move. Did not care to move. The only place I wanted to move to was from the west side of Michigan back to the east side of Michigan. Period. Come back home. Yeah. But no, God said, I'm moving you to another state. Yeah. And I said, who? Like, you got the wrong person. Yeah. You must be asking for someone else. But even in that moment, luckily, He had my mom to remind me, like, oh, you need to get this apartment.
Shout out to Big Low, okay? We love mamas around here, okay? Literally. They be looking out.
She really do. Like, she's a blessing.
Yeah, she is.
Really a blessing. Love my mother, okay? So, for me to move, I was scared. Scared out of my mind. Like, I moved without a job. I just had my little savings. And I moved. And I'm still over in the same state that He told me to move to. Granted, another transparent moment. I don't know why I'm there. Yeah. He just told me to move. Yeah. And I was like, really don't want to, but wrong heart. But that's a whole nother Another episode. But I still moved. In the way this man that's just me. The way this man has been faithful. Yeah. And making sure, never been late on, even if I didn't have it, because there was a moment where I didn't have a job, like, because I was working for the government. It was a temporary contract. Right. It took me another 6 months to find another job, but still, I was able to not miss work. I was able, not miss work, but not miss, like, paying a bill. Yeah.
That sounds faithful to me. It sounds like God really being faithful to
like,
me.
My car was on this last leg, you hear me? And I was able to find a car that I should not have gotten. Like, the amount of money I paid for that car, I was like, God, like, this is literally you, because I should have paid way much more money than what I did. So during this time, even though I was moving out of fear, even though it was His instruction for me to move, and I really didn't want to, He was still faithful to me. Yeah. Even though I was still mad at Him, because I'm like, why?
That's honest though.
And it wasn't like a month. No, it was a long period of time I was mad at God. Like, why did you have me to move? Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Because I can't see it. So.
Yeah. But you are obedient. You were still obedient.
And that's the difference. Like, I was obedient in that moment. And what they say, obedience is better than sacrifice.
Listen, that's the scripture that I've had to, like, I've had to have people drill that into me. And the other part is, like, thinking about it in the sense of, and my pastor says it all the time, like, delayed obedience is still disobedience. Yeah. Because even in that moment, it's like, okay, God, I'm doing it, but do you have the right heart? Like you said, that's a whole different episode for a different day.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is. And God, I'm gonna be obedient. I'm gonna do what you tell me to do. I'm gonna go and not get caught up in what I'm feeling right now, or what I see and what I hear, and what's in my pocket and what's not in my pocket.
Cause listen, that money be talking.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want it to talk, it be like, you know, you running a little low right now.
Listen,
like
you be sitting there looking in your wallet be talking to you, you know what I'm saying? But I guess that's been a big part of, for me, like the confession part.
Yeah.
Of Confessions from a Tilted Crown is the faith of talking, like, because like we said, God is still faithful. So just like, you know, looking at my situation and saying what I don't have, when I look at what God and what Jesus was able to do when he, you know, the bread and the fish, and he, you know, he took little and made much out of it. He fed a multitude. And
not once.
Listen.
A couple of times. And I don't think people really realize, like, it was a different.
Come on. Tell them. Come on. Okay. That's overflow.
It was a different, like,
I'm living in the overflow. Sorry. I have the same issue that Lisa has. Every time somebody says something, I hear a song in my head.
It was multiple times that he's done that.
Yeah.
And it's like, he didn't have to feed them people.
He didn't. Or even the story when he first met the disciples. Like, which disciple? Who was that? Was it Peter? When he met him and he was like on the boat and he was like, I'm not catching anything. And Jesus was like, oh, take your net and put it on the other side. And then it was like,
and it was more.
I'm living in the overflow. I'm living in the
Listen, that overflow was like,
it
shocked my man.
Listen, supersedes. And I guess that's, you know, that's the thing, that as believers, we have the benefit of knowing that we don't have to be in fear, because we know that we have hope. When we have hope because we know who our God is. We know who our Father is. And just like a good father, you know, a good father is always going to create opportunity for their child.
Come on. And he'll correct.
Listen.
Let's not forget that, people.
He will correct. He will correct. Absolutely. And we'll get you together. And that's, once again, a whole different episode.
No, it's not. Because he'll correct your fear as well.
All right. Well, this has been the episode. Thank you for tuning in. Lisa just shut the whole episode down, but no, that's real talk. He will correct your fear, because and I think that's the thing. Fear is not ours to have. It's not ours to have. Even in 2 Timothy, it says literally, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind.
That's right.
That is literally what the scripture says. So that means that fear is not from God. So fear can only come from one place. It comes from the enemy. And that's just what it is. And we got to be honest about it. We got to be real about it and talk back to that thing and tell that thing like, yo, you do not have any power to reside here, because this is not something that my Father gave me. Anything that is given to you, you have the keen ability as to whether or not you're going to receive it. So I was going to say I'm sorry, but I'm not. I'm not going to take fear when I can take power, love, and a sound mind. And in certain translations of the Bible, it doesn't say sound mind. It actually says self-discipline. So that means that I play a role into whether or not I decide to operate in fear or be afraid. I have the ability to make a choice.
Yes, talk to the people. I'm listening. Talk to the people and talk to me.
I have what I need because God has given me power.
Yes.
That means that I'm not operating in my own power. I'm operating in His power because He's a strong tower.
Hey, come on now.
He's giving me love. And that means loving Him, even back to your point about self-esteem, loving myself enough to see myself the way that He created me. Because that's something else somebody said. Somebody said this. I can't remember. I like to give people their credit, but I can't even remember who said it. Somebody recently just had a conversation with me and said that part of the issue often when we get into self-esteem things is the fact that we talk a lot about loving God and loving our neighbors, but we don't go enough into the fact that God wants us to love ourselves as well. Okay. Now, there's a difference between being a lover of yourself versus loving yourself, regarding yourself the way that God created you, because we're his daughters. And if you listening to this, you're his daughter, you're his son. But why is it that we're so keen to be like, man, I'm not good enough? Yeah. God made you. God put you together. Like, your mama and daddy didn't know each other, and they came together because God had a plan for you. He had a plan for your life. Don't get caught up in that. But I said all that to say, I'm just excited because this right here is what it takes and what it means to move beyond fear. This is the first episode of the podcast, and this is us moving beyond fear. This is us making a conscious choice to go beyond and grow beyond fear and tell the devil that we don't have to take it. We gonna send it back to him, and we gonna operate in the power and the love and the sound mind that God has given us. Yes. And that's why I asked you to come on and do this episode with me, Lisa. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you. I'm sure the people will hear from you again at some point. We'll find another topic to get into, another discussion. Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Like I said, I've known Lisa now for well over a decade, and it just does my heart so well to see how much growth my kid sister has experienced. And I'm just so grateful. I'll leave with this one thing. My confession, our confession moving forward when it comes to fear is, I am not afraid to be great. I will operate in the fullness of God's purpose for me without fear. I have all I need, including the discipline, to be all that God called me to be. And that is based off of scripture in 2 Timothy 1:7. Also, I want to give a good shout out to Jay Will and Darius James. They have been the soundtrack for the last several years of me moving beyond fear. They did this dope EP called Afraid to Be Great. And it constantly challenges me in moments where I have to overcome fear in order to operate the way that God called me to. So I'll be sure to put the link in the bio or in the description of this particular episode so that you can have an opportunity. And I always give y'all like great recommendations for music, because anybody who knows me knows that music is my thing. But shout out to that. Don't be afraid to be great. Don't take fear because it's not yours to have. Always trust and push yourself beyond yourself to do what God has told you to do, because we already just said it, obedience is better than sacrifice. I appreciate you, Lisa. I appreciate you too, Ken. Oh, okay. All right, I love y'all. I can't wait to hear from y'all. Please, any suggestions, any topics, any people you think I should kick it with, please reach out to me. Let me know. I want to hear. I want to grow, so challenge me any way that you can. God bless. Bye. That was real churchy. I appreciate you for tuning in. I hope something that was said encouraged you and reminded you of God's plan for your life. Remember, keep your hands clean and don't forget to adjust your crown.